And now to those questionable ties between Israel and Iran. U.S. officials tell NBC News deadly attacks on Iranian nuclear scientists like the one last month in Tehran are being carried out by an Iranian dissident group that is financed, trained and armed by Israel's Secret Service. The Iranian group has long been designated by the U.S. as a terrorist organization. The Iranian government calls the relation very intricate and close. NBC News senior investigative producer Bob Windrum uncovered this new information along with NBC News chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel. Bob is with us now. So first, Bob, let's talk about this organization before we even talk about the relationship with Israel. Who or what is this group?
It's the People's Mujahideen of Iran. They have been active as a terrorist group going back to the 1970s. In the 1970s, they killed 6 Americans, 3 military officers, 3 civilians. The U.S. has had them on their radar for years, and in the 90s, they finally put them on the terrorist list, where they remain in spite of a lot of lobbying to get off it. They have been the biggest thorn in the side of the Iranian regime for years.
The amusing thing is that the MEK will try to buy pretty much anyone. And I was approached to do events in support of the MEK. I know a number of other former government officials who found them truly detestable also were approached. You know, it's really something to have someone on the phone offering you $15,000 or $20,000 to appear at a panel discussion, because that doesn't happen for former diplomats every day.
For an immediate thing, we must take off the list of terrorist organizations, a group that is devoted to restoring freedom to Iran.
They are not a terrorist organization. They have their own Bill of Rights, which is an extraordinary thing under the leadership of Madame Rajavi, and we appreciate what she has done greatly.
Thank you. I'm Alan Dershowitz, professor at Harvard Law School, and I'm here to tell you that we are in a human rights emergency.
What's the emergency, Alan? Is it Israel killing the Palestinians again?
The risks to the lives of every single member of the MEK and every single resident of Camp Ashraf are immediate, real, clear, and present. There is no time for further discussion and debate. We must take action. And the action we must take is twofold. Number one, the MEK must immediately be delisted. Immediately. Both the Quran and the Talmud say that he who saves a single human life, it is as if they have saved the world. That is part of the Christian tradition, the Jewish tradition, the Muslim tradition, and every humanitarian tradition. We are in a position to save human lives.
Wow, where was this guy when the hundreds of thousands of Iraqis were being killed? Invoke the Holocaust in 3, 2, 1.
And as my friend Elie Wiesel, who has told me to say that he cares deeply, deeply about the residents of Camp Ashraf, reminds me over and over again, for him the main lesson of the Holocaust has always been, take the threats of your enemies more seriously than the promises of your friends. Now, we are friends of the people at Camp Ashraf, and we as a government, the United States, has made promises. We are not keeping those promises. It is a scandal that the United States is not keeping its promise. We demanded of the residents of Camp Ashraf that they give up their ability to defend themselves in exchange for a solemn and sacred promise that we would take over their defense, we would protect them. In this Capitol building, I call on the United States government, keep its promise.
Yes, keep your promise, America.
There's nothing the MEK likes more than hearing from famous Americans. So long, of course, as they stay right on message.
Overthrow of the mullah's regime.
Regime change in Iran.
Has to be regime change.
The speakers are paid well.
What do you think is going to happen to that nuclear agreement?
And they clearly relish the chance to share their strong opinions with a like-minded crowd. The president's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, and National Security Advisor, John Bolton, were both regulars.
There is a viable opposition to the rule of the Ayatollahs.
The regime is evil, and it must go. Free Iran!
The MEK doesn't just want to free Iran, it wants to take over. And Giuliani seems to think it can.
You're the vision for the future. You are the vision for the future of Iran.
But that vision is much darker than these public gatherings reveal. The MEK has a sinister past, and its promises of freedom and democracy sound hollow to those who know it best.
You can't trust this group. They don't believe in democracy. I don't think any decent, intelligent officer in America will think that they're trustworthy.
Masoud Khoderbande used to run the security detail for the group's ruthless leader, Maryam Rajavi, who dreams of seizing power in Iran for herself.
How would you describe them if you could sum them up in a few sentences?
I would put just two words: destructive cult. They control them financially, they control them physically, they control them emotionally.
Rajavi took over from her husband, Masoud. They both started out as foot soldiers for the group, whose name means Holy Warriors of the People. It fought against the Shah, Iran's pro-American leader, and killed 6 Americans, contractors and soldiers. In 1979, MEK members participated in the storming of the U.S. Embassy, where 52 Americans were held hostage for 444 long days. After the revolution, the Ayatollahs took over, and the MEK was forced to flee to nearby Iraq. From there, armed and supported by Saddam Hussein, it launched a deadly campaign against the Iranian regime. In 1997, the State Department designated the MEK a terrorist organization.
There was a long trail of violence and bloodshed here, and the MEK really stood out as one of the really capable and dangerous organizations in the world at that time.
Daniel Benjamin was the Obama administration's coordinator for counterterrorism.
It's pretty remarkable that a group that has American blood on its hands, even if it's now a former terrorist group, to have contacts like Rudy Giuliani, John Bolton.
But these days, they do most of their fighting on Capitol Hill, where their regime change message has been embraced by politicians from both parties.
They see this group who says they have popular support, who's making all the right noises about overthrowing the mullahs. And they see that as a group that they can support.
Journalist Joanne Stocker has been investigating the MEK for nearly a decade. She showed me a database of campaign donations to American politicians from organizations tied to the MEK.
You've got people like George W. Bush, was given $1,000 in 2004.
So I see here John McCain. So is this Republicans, Democrats?
It's both. It goes across the aisle. So, McCain got $2,400, $1,000. But then, Obama's on here too.
Pretty small contribution.
Sure. But when you get them coming in from 10, 15 people every single year, they add up.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
But the speaking circuit is where it's really at.
It is my great honor to present to you the most formidable list of American national security, military, political, and governmental leaders of my generation.
They pay people thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars to go to their rallies and to speak in favor of them.
John Bolton never disclosed how much money the MEK paid him, but Stocker ventured an educated guess.
On the low end, $180,000, just based on what other people were making.
180. How do you come up with that number?
Because other people were paid, we seem to have narrowed it down to about $20,000 to $30,000 a speech.
No one really knows exactly where the MEK is getting all this money from. But Saudi Arabia is a pretty good place to start.
I personally have brought money and gold from Saudi Arabia to Iraq for Mujahideen.
You transported money and gold from Saudi Arabia? How did you do that?
So it was 3 trucks of gold.
3 trucks of gold?
3 trucks of
bars?
Gold. Yeah. I would say about a tonnage.
Now, the group's tentacles of influence have reached the heart of the American government.
I personally find it pretty remarkable that anyone who could have had the ties to the MEK that John Bolton did could get a security clearance. I think it ought to cause people an awful lot of concern.
As far as the MEK is concerned, their guy is in the White House. They're tied in this together.
Who's their guy? John Bolton's their guy?
John Bolton is the MEK's guy in the White House.
John Bolton made it very clear what he thinks the White House should do.
The declared policy of the United States of America should be the overthrow of the mullahs regime in Tehran.
A recommendation he's now in a position to shape into policy.
Before 2019, we here will celebrate in Tehran. Thank you very much.
The stars seem to be aligned to accomplish what we all want to accomplish, which is the downfall of the mullah's regime.
Former top government officials discuss U.S. security issues concerning Iran. We'll hear from former CIA Director James Woolsey, former FBI Director Louis Freeh, and former Homeland Security Secretary Tom Ridge, plus former National Security Advisor to President Obama, General James Jones. They talk about the Iranian group MEK, which advocates the overthrow of the Iranian government. A number of members of Congress have asked the Obama administration to take MEK off the State Department's terrorist list.
Let us begin our discussion. For our first speaker today, it is my great privilege to introduce the 81st Attorney General of the United States, Attorney General Michael McKenzie.
Quite simply, MEK is an organization of Iranians, both inside Iran and outside Iran, that opposes the current regime, favors government in Iran that is organized along democratic, secular, non-nuclear lines, a democratic, secular, non-nuclear republic. And I should add, this is not one of the few organizations of Iranians that fits that description. It is, in point of fact, the only one. It's clear that the Iranian regime believes that time is short, and it would like nothing better than to have the residents of Camp Ashraf driven out before MEK succeeds in being removed from a list that it should never have been on in the first place.
One thing we should no longer do, and in this I join the others on this panel, is keep the MEK listed as a terrorist organization. In 22 years of practicing law, I read a lot of legal decisions, and I recently read the Circuit Court's decision in the case involving the MEK versus the State Department. And my experience, and I think that of most lawyers who are interested in international matters, is that courts ordinarily give a great deal of deference to the executive branch with respect to the conduct of foreign policy. This eloquently and well-written decision of last July by the D.C. Circuit effectively says quite bluntly, although it doesn't use this particular analogy, that what the Department of State has done is what the Red Queen does in Alice in Wonderland when she is asked if first we're going to have the trial and the verdict and then the execution. She says, oh, no, execution first, then trial.
Never mind him, he's mad.
We've been actively involved, beginning in the Cheney-Bush days, of encouraging insurrection inside Iran. Whether it's aimed at regime change or not isn't clear. I doubt that. But basically, blowing up things, etc. We did have a list at one time we created here in Washington of people we'd like to see gone, captured perhaps, turned over, turned into our agents, double agents inside Iran. We tried to do that too. But certainly the Israelis are pawing the ground as if they're directly responsible or deeply involved with the MEK and the recent assassination of a 32-year-old scientist whose role in terms of, there's not much evidence he was involved in making weapons because there's no evidence that Iranians are making weapons. Simply, they're just the Kolk, the MEK. We began to. I learned about this many years ago. It's just one of those things that it never quite occurred to me how important it was. And what is important about also they did stop. There's no question this sort of training that was going on. It was going on at a place called the Nevada Nuclear Security or National Security Test Site. It's a former site for post-World War II nuclear testing of weapons, testing of nuclear weapons. And it's off limits to people. And there's an air base there. God knows what went on there. My own guess is rendition flights also flew into that air base in 02, 03. There's some evidence for it. But certainly the groups of MEK were flown in secretly by, I presume, the Joint Special Operations Command. This is this new high-powered group that's been doing all the night raids in Afghanistan. That also came up in your news broadcast. What's important to me about it is not only that it did end this kind of direct training this group that is, as you said, a terrorist group. It's also very clear that the United States is still involved, as is Israel, and as was for many years England, in using the MEK and other dissident groups inside Iran as surrogates for the continued pressure we're putting covertly on inside of Iran. And that is, as you said, there are assassinations done by the MEK. And let me make it clear, the MEK has been in a virtual war with the mullahs in Iran since the fall of the Shah. And you don't have to urge them to kill anybody. They're very eager to do it themselves inside that country. But still, nonetheless, we provide intelligence. We, the Americans, have continued to provide intelligence and other kinds of material support for the MEK. Don't forget, they speak Farsi, which is a great asset to us. These are people who are able to translate intercepted communications inside Iran for us very quickly and with great skill. And so we have a lot of reason to rely on them, as we rely on other dissident groups inside Iran, the Kurds, the Azeris, and others, to cause basically to try and keep some sort of internal chaos and mayhem going inside the country. Also, it's to my knowledge, this isn't in the piece because only one particular source about it, but I do understand that we really don't know what's going to happen until after it happens, and then we are put on notice. We do get notice that something's happened before it's released to the public. We have that kind of communication, essentially through Israel. Israel's obviously a little closer to everything that's going on than we are, but we're certainly we're not picking targets. I doubt that now. At least I don't have any evidence we are, but we're providing general intelligence, and it's not an accident that the first units of the MEK to show up in Nevada late '04, early '05, and it was months and months of training. It's not the first word used by two different people about it was commo, communications, and crypto. The point is that there was a story in the Washington Post just the other day here describing how America has been using drones to overfly Iran for at least 3 years. I would argue that long before that, we've been using American satellites flying high that can't be detected. And obviously, you can uplink and downlink communications to satellites. You can, if you're on the ground and you find out something very useful technically, by training the MEK in communications and how to use encrypt communications, you're also enabling them to become an asset on the ground for us. There was a period, I would say, in the Bush administration, I also think it stopped under Obama, when our boys, our Joint Special Operations Command guys, were directly inside Iran. We came in through Herat in Afghanistan. We also, that was one of what we call a rat line. There are other rat lines through Baluchistan in Pakistan, and et cetera. There were ways to get inside Iran clandestinely that we've been using for at least since, I'd say, late '04. Until probably right before Obama got in. So we were there. Look, it's been a huge, big internal game designed to destabilize. And as somebody said to me, and one of the pieces, one of the quotes in the pieces, we're not necessarily looking for Einsteins. That suggests to me that the scientists who are really the most deeply involved in enrichment. And by the way, let me say again, there is no evidence that our intelligence community or even the Israeli intelligence community has, and I know that firsthand, suggesting that there's an ongoing bomb program. So we are now, the United States is now in the position of increasing sanctions and pressuring all sorts of economic pressure on the Iranians to stop. The whole purpose of the economic sanctions is to stop the Iranians from making a bomb that we know they're not making.
The relation is very intricate and close. They are paying it, and the Mujahideen, through their agents, giving Israel, providing Israel with information, and they recruit and also manage logistical support. Israel does not have direct access to a society. Mujahideen, being Iranian and being part of the Iranian society, they have a good number of places to get into the touch with the people. So I think they are working hand to hand very close, and we do have very concrete documents.
Very specifically, do you believe that Israel, working with the People's Mujahideen of Iran, had a role in the assassination of your nuclear scientists?
Even more than a role. The person that has been captured and is not the only one. There are a number who are at large. He was recruited by the Israelis through the mediators Mujahideen in Turkey, Ankara. Then he was flown to Israel for 1 month. He's been trained over there. He even said that he did several simulations. They made a house for them, simulating the house of living, that apartment of that scientist, and a motorcycle, how he should go, when they should go, when he should act. So he said, I tried that exercise in that simulation for several times. Then he was flown back to Tehran. Then one person came, gave him the motorcycle, which was with the bomb, and the place they should hide, about 100 meters from the house of that scientist. That scientist was a very close friend of mine as well. So I knew him for long years. Though I'm not working in his area, I'm a mathematician, but I knew him very well. So he explained very detailed how he got the training, how he acted. So the Israelis' involvement is 100%. But they are doing with the recruitment and others who place them. This is an Israeli plot, a dirty plot, and it doesn't have anything damage to our nuclear capability, because the number of our scientists is not 1 and 2. In fact, this guy who has been assassinated was not involved in the nitty-gritty of the situation. He was a scientist, a physicist, working on the theoretical parts of nuclear energy, which you can teach it in every university, you can find it in every text. If a country is aware that the close allies of that country, like Israel, is involved in notorious terrorist activity, United States has an obligation to prevent it, to push Israel not to do it, to pursue it like pursuing us in the United Nations with different resolutions. Well, if they are at war with terrorism, this is a clear cut of terrorist activity, governmentally sponsored.